It's a little quiet, perhaps too quiet. Makes you wonder if Omar still has something up his sleeve for the rest of free agency, because that's where we sit right now. We're 3 weeks away from the draft, and I'm just curious if there's any more moves to be had, any more signings to be made. But that's why we're here, and we're going to discuss further Big Deke News. It does feel like the Steelers have addressed most of our needs, if not all of them, through free agency thus far. I know we could probably nitpick a position or two, but think about it. Inside linebacking core, taken care of. Defensive line, fortified with us bringing back Larry Ogunjobi, and then just signing Braden Fajoko. Cornerbacks, we did lose a Cam Sutton, but replaced him with a Hall of Famer and Patrick Peterson, who could still play ball, and also got our depth piece back in James Pierre. Safety, lost Terrell Edmonds, but replaced him with Keanu Neal. Also resigned DeMonte Casey. On the offense, we definitely are building back up the offensive line, particularly in the interior. So yeah, the knocks you could probably bring up is, what about left tackle? But at the same time, I feel like we'd be fine rolling with Dan Moore going into 2023 because he's already proven to be a starter these last 2 seasons. Now, is it optimal? That's up for debate, but don't tell me that Dan Moore can't play as a starting left tackle, and you got to hope that he's going to make a jump in the 3rd year, only developing further. Slot receiver, you can make a case, but at the same time, I do think we really like the guys in-house with Anthony Miller and Calvin Austin. Anthony Miller has just been hurt these last couple seasons, or actually, no. 2021, he just didn't get any PT, but last year he was out for the whole year. Calvin Austin, we have to like him. We drafted him in the 4th round. And then the other position I guess you could talk about is cornerback, specifically slot corner, because we have Arthur Marlette, and I don't feel like it'd be the wisest thing to rely on him as the down-in, down-out slot guy like we did with Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton back in the day. But that's really it. Maybe you could talk 3rd edge rusher, but we're still talking to Bud Dupree. And what are we talking about there? We're talking about the 3rd edge rusher. Essentially, as it sits right now, I feel like we got a team tailored, ready to play week 1 right now. But the great part about it is we still have more of the offseason, more free agency, and the draft. Particularly with the Steelers, we have damn good draft picks too. But if the Steelers wanted to address any of these positions I just talked about via free agency, here's what we're looking at. First, slot receiver. Here's some names: Jarvis Landry, Julio Jones, Robbie Anderson, Kenny Golladay, T.Y. Hilton, Odell Beckham. I don't think it's crazy to say that these guys outside of Odell aren't definitively better than what we already have in-house in an Anthony Miller or a Calvin Austin right now, because if you look at these guys, they are names. They're like the 2016 or 2017 All-Stars for the receiver position. But as we sit right now, they ain't the same. I'd rather roll with a healthy Anthony Miller or a Calvin Austin going into year 2, coming off this injury from his rookie year. Now, Odell, yeah, I think he would be an upgrade, but we've already talked about what could happen if you bring Odell into your team. You got to worry about drama. How much targets does he want? What's his contract going to be? There's a lot, and I don't think the Steelers are really looking in that direction. So if we're talking about bringing in a receiver through free agency right now, I'm good. I'd rather go with someone in the draft. Now, where do we draft a guy? Maybe that's more of a conversation for a different day, because with how we set ourselves up through free agency, there could be a case that we could draft one in round 1 with all these picks that we have in the top 80, and it wouldn't screw up our draft. But yeah, like I said, maybe we'll get into that for another day. Other free agents, we got slot corner. You got Kyle Fuller, Bryce Callahan, Troy Hill, Chandon Sullivan. I also would kind of be intrigued. Now, these are outside guys, and bringing in a Rock Ya-Sin, or also bringing back William Jackson III on a flyer deal. But I feel like that might be overkill for the outside corner spot, because we already have Patrick Peterson, Levi Wallace, and we still haven't cut Ahkello Witherspoon yet. I do wonder, the cornerback position is interesting to me, because with us bringing in Peterson, with how he's been talking, with all the versatile pieces we have on defense, I wonder if we could bring in a predominantly more outside guy and still make it work, as opposed to just either drafting specific slot corner or bringing one in through free agency. But if we're still talking specifically slot with guys like Fuller, Callahan, Hill, or Sullivan, yeah, if you brought him in for a cheap deal 1 year, like $2 million, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all, because these guys have played that position in the past, being a team's predominant slot corner, and have had success. Now, some of them are a little bit more over the hill. Some are coming off injuries like Kyle Fuller, coming off down seasons like Chandon Sullivan. But I could see it being worth the flyer. I think one of these guys, if they're actually able to play up to their potential this following year, could be an upgrade over Arthur Maulet. But yeah, that's really it. I don't think it's something pressing. Could be something to consider and something that I would be okay with. Whereas with slot receiver, I'm just saying no. Slot corner, I would be open to it if we brought in one of those guys on a reasonable contract. Third edge rusher, the only thing that makes sense for me through free agency is Bud Dupree. If you can't bring him in, don't sign anyone. Just draft someone in the 3rd or 4th round. I think it just makes financial sense, and from like a player development and culture standpoint, just do it that way. If you can't get Bud, draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th. And then last is offensive tackles in free agency. We got Donovan Smith, Taylor Lewan, Eric Fisher, Cameron Ervin, and Isaiah Wynn. Taylor Lewan, we know that's not happening unless TJ gives the approval, and I don't think that's happening. Eric Fisher, is he better than Dan Moore right now? Same with Cameron Ervin. Isaiah Wynn, I think he's overrated, and he put out a declaration that he's not talking to a team unless they're willing to pay him over $5 million per year. And then Donovan Smith, his name was brought up after the Bucs released him. A lot of Steeler fans were like, "Oh, should the Steelers be interested?" This and that. But he was the most penalized tackle in the league. Like, he had the highest penalty percentage rate for an offensive lineman. So why would he be an upgrade over Dan Moore? Yeah, I mean, if you brought him in for competition, fine. But what's the point then if you're actually going to pay him? You could just do that through the draft if you want to bring in a guy for competition. Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily a first-round guy. Could be someone you take in the 2nd or 3rd. They could be some type of competition or someone to push Dan Moore, and they're going to be on a rookie deal, and you're going to have them for the next 4 years. So that doesn't really make sense to me. So in conclusion, if I were the GM, there's really only 2 things I'd be looking at or considering for the rest of free agency, and that's bringing in Bud Dupree, and 2, maybe bringing in one of these slot corner specialists. Outside of that, I think we're ready to roll for the draft, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What would you do if you were the Steelers GM for the rest of free agency? But yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed on a Tuesday. Stay chilling. Peace.